My initial response after reading Night Mother was intense sadness. To hear from a loved one, especially your own child, that their life is so miserable that the only option they see is to end it would crush me. I cried multiple times while reading this play. The two characters that are seen on stage for this production are Thelma Cates and her middle-aged daughter, Jessie. Thelma's husband passed away a few years ago, and Jessie's son has been having issues with the law. Jessie has experienced seizures for most of her life, which prevents her from having a job. She is unhappy with her life and has decided to end it. Jessie has been living with her mother for some time now, since her divorce. Thelma and Jessie have always had a bit of a rocky relationship, but Jessie loves her mother enough to make sure that she will be taken care of after Jessie commits suicide. Thelma has had to look after her daughter well into her adulthood because of her debilitating seizures. The setting for this play is predominantly in the living room/kitchen of Thelma's home, somewhere in rural America. Jessie has been living there with her. There are points in time when Jessie goes into the attic and her bedroom, but the action that takes place there usually happens off stage. This play is unusual in that the show is supposed to be happening in real time. The beginning of the show is supposed to feature these women at home at 8 o'clock at night and finishes with Jessie killing herself at 10 o'clock that same night. The roughly 2 hours of showtime is supposed to mirror the 2 hours that pass within the play. Jessie spends most of the evening gathering things around the house and showing her mother where important things are kept. She also informs her mother on how her day-to-day life should proceed without a hitch. After demands of an explanation from her mother, Jessie reveals that she plans on killing herself before the night is over. Thelma attempts to convince her not to do it, using various different means, including shaming, pleading, and persuasion, all to no avail. The show ends with Jessie going into her room with her father's gun, her mother sobbing, and bidding her a good night before a gunshot is heard. Marcia Norman was born in 1947 in Louisville, Kentucky. She received many awards, including a Pulitzer Prize for Night Mother. She also received a Tony nomination for her work on the book for the Broadway musical, The Color Purple. She is a co-chair of the playwriting department of the Juilliard School. She was also hired to work on a Broadway version of King Kong, but she later backed out. I find these things interesting because although she's had great success with writing straight plays, she has also shown interest in trying out other forms of theater. This show deals with the darker, but still very human, experience of death. Marcia Norman decided to make this play using only one act, in one location, with a very realistic pace, to really emphasize the dialogue and dynamic between the characters. As a reader, these choices allow you to cement yourself in the setting and really focus on the character development without getting bogged down with scene changes. Audiences are strongly impacted by this form because it adds to the reality of the action on stage. With lots of weird timings and scene jumping, viewers are able to detach themselves from the action because the same space can't transform into multiple locations in the real world. This show, however, uses a realistic set and timeline with no scene changes to really allow the audience to believe that the action of the play is happening before their very eyes. Night Mother opened at the American Repertory Theater in Cambridge, Massachusetts in December of 1982 with Kathy Bates starring as Jessie. It then moved to the John Golden Theater on Broadway in March of 1983. Kean University's Second Stage will put on their own production of this show in spring of next year. A film version was directed by Tom Moore in 1986 with the help of Marcia Norman. Moore also directed the original Broadway version. Jessie was played by Sissy Spacek, and Thelma was played by Anne Bancroft. Anne Bancroft was nominated for a Golden Globe for Best Performance by an Actress in a Motion Picture. The John Golden Theatre used an image for their playbill that was very reminiscent of the book cover, with a black and white picture of an old country road and an ominous-looking house. Other theaters, like the Vernon Powerhouse Theater, chose to emphasize the gun. I think that both of these choices helped to illustrate, at least, the tone of the production. Alternatively, the movie poster only featured the title and two main characters set in front of a large moon. This seems to be really focusing on the actors in this film rather than the story itself. The moon plays off the title of Night Mother, but it could be interpreted as a lullaby or a nursery rhyme for someone that had no prior knowledge of the play. On the multiple intelligences quiz, I scored particularly high in the area of linguistic intelligence. Because of this particular aptitude, I would want to continue with this topic and analyze statements made by people that have been affected by suicide, as well as other plays that deal with this issue. I would then write a report about the way that suicide is addressed in plays. I think it would be interesting to see the different ways that playwrights handle this very sensitive issue. I would examine how these different works are received by audiences, as well as the people that have been directly affected by this devastation. This play changed me more than I had expected it to. I have never seen suicide as a sin, but more so as an issue that people, especially those that suffer from mental issues like anxiety and depression, have to deal with and overcome. I've had people tell me that suicide is the most selfish. That bothered me because obviously that person is dealing with really difficult things to get them to that point. After reading this play, however, I really examined what it would be like for someone to have to watch their loved one commit suicide, and, at the very least, I have a much greater appreciation for how difficult that would be.